Well, hello everyone. This is Joe Tortonesi coming to you, and I'd like to welcome you to Joe's Drum Shop, where we are learning about drums, all different things about drums and cymbals and playing notes and learning how to read music. And the last couple of shows, we've been kind of breaking down the very basics and talking about the types of drums and the cymbals, and we also talked about putting the beats together. And the week after that, we talked about drum fills. And now today, we're actually going to kind of put all of that together into what they call a drum solo. Now, doing a drum solo is not the most important thing on the face of the planet when you're talking about being in a band. Drum solos are kind of like icing on the cake. They're extra things. But most importantly, to be a good drummer is to keep good time and, of course, make sure that your patterns are nice and in time so everybody can play along with you. Because the worst thing to do is to be off or to speed up or slow down your beat and that nobody can follow you. So it's really important, most importantly, to do that before any drum solos. But I wanted to explain to you about what drum solos are. They're basically a kind of time for the drummer to shine, obviously, and to do things. Sometimes they're thought out beforehand, or sometimes they're actually performed just, automatically, just an idea. And sometimes those are really cool because then a lot of interesting ideas can happen just out of the blue. Sometimes when they're all worked out and everything down, sometimes it can be a little bit boring to the audience. But again, whatever you do, you have to make it important for them to understand what you're doing. And by doing that is you want to have a framework of the drum solo, which is to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay? So it's important to do that. I'm going to play some parts to this drum solo. Now this is we're on page 36, and we're talking on this is the book called Drums 1, and it's put out by HAL Leonard. And we're on page 36, lesson 11, and this is called the Fab solo. Now, if you ever heard the name Fab before, Fab actually refers to the Beatles. And back in the late 60s, they had an album come out called Abbey Road. And on that album, they actually had a song called The End. And I'm going to play a little bit of that now for you. And when I do, I want you to listen to the solo. Now, it starts off with the rest of the band playing in, and then the rest of the band will cut out, and then Ringo, the drummer, Ringo Starr, will play the drum solo. And this is kind of based on, this solo is based on that idea of what happened on the record. Of course, they couldn't, do the actual solo because it would have like a copyright infringement strike against them. So they're playing a little bit. You're going to notice a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be playing when we get to it, but you're going to hear a lot of that solo stuff that you're going to hear right now on that record. So let's do that right now. I'm going to turn it on, and I want you just to listen to a little bit of this song. So here we go. Okay, as you heard, that was the solo. Very short and sweet. Ringo wasn't really a drum soloist, but he, was coaxed in by the rest of the band. They said, you got to do a drum solo. So make it a real short and sweet one, and that would be, really cool. And it was the only one that he ever did. He never played a drum solo live. He never played one, with the rest of the band at all like that. They never did that song live. So it was really interesting. And like I said, Ringo did it, and it's one of the coolest drum solos on record. So let's talk about what's going on in this drum solo. It's called the Fab solo, like I said before, because the Beatles used to be called the Fab Four, and that's where they got the name for this solo. So if you take a look, of course, if you have the book, if you don't, just kind of watch and let the cameras do the work. You can kind of see what I'm doing and kind of get some ideas just by watching it. In the meantime, if you have the book, just follow along, and I'm going to break it down really slow, and then I'm going to play the solo at the end, okay? And we'll play it a little bit more up to speed, not too fast, so that way you guys can kind of get an idea of how this goes, okay? Because I know this is a little more advanced for some people, okay? So, but it is fun to watch. Again, drum solos are always fun to watch. I really got into watching other drummers do solos, and it was definitely something to talk about with other drummers. So the first thing, the very first measure, the beat starts off. In fact, the whole drum solo, when Ringo played it, actually the whole bass drum is played through the whole solo. It's just kind of constantly playing eighth notes. And as that played, you just kind of keep that. That's kind of the metronome. That's the timekeeping of the whole drum solo, okay? Now, as that's going on, we're going to actually play the next half of it. And as the bass drum plays through this, we're going to add some toms. And sometimes there's snare drums too. But in this first one, it's all toms. So I'm going to do this slow. It's going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, as you can see, it's a real intricate. I'm going to play it again. Also, I'm going to play it twice because the next line has a two-measure phrase, which you're playing the same thing twice. So here we go. I'm going to play it twice. 1, 2, here we go. 1 E, a 2, and a 3 E, and 4 E, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and again. 1 E, a 2, and a 3 E, and 4 E, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. All right, next, we have a whole measure full of snare drums. So we're not working around the toms anymore. We're doing the snare drum. So this is going to be a similar rhythm, just a little different, but it's going to sound like this. I'll do it slow. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a. Again, one more time. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a. All right, next, we're going to go to the third line. We've got another measure full of snare drums and bass drums. So here's how this one sounds. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 and. All right, next, we have the same fill coming up. So during this drum solo, there's a lot of stuff that repeats. And one of the main things that repeats quite often in this is the 1 E, a 2, and a 3 E, and 4 E, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. All right, now, the next thing, it drops down to the fourth line, and it's going to play floor tom, and it's going to come up to the snare drum. Again, bass drum playing on all of the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So here I'll play this slow. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 and 4 and. Then it goes to the next one, the middle tom. We're going to do that. It's 1 E and a 2 and a 3 and 4 and then we're going to repeat 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Repeat 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Next, we got some more snare drum with bass drums. Again, they keep going back from the toms to the snare and from the snares to the toms. Again, making it interesting. Again, and all these rhythms that I'm playing between them are interesting rhythms. They're different each time. All right, the next one, the snare drum is going to sound like this with the bass drum. 1 and 2E, 3E, and 4 and Again, one more time. 1E and, oh, sorry, ready, go. 1 and 2E and 3E and 4 and All right, next, now we're going to put the snare drums together with the toms, almost like that same pattern I just played, but we're going to spread it out around the toms with the snare. So here's how that goes. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2E, 3E, and 4 and. Let me do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2E and 3E and 4 and. All right. Next, same rhythm that we were doing all along. We're going to do one more of those. It's going to sound like this. 1E and 2 and 3E and 4E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now we're on the last line. We're in the home stretch. We're going to play the snare drum again with the bass drum, and that's going to be a little different than the last one. So we'll do that right now. 1, 2, ready, go. 1E and 2 and 3E and 4 and then back to the last fill. 1E, 2 and 3E and 4E and 1 and 2 and 3. All right, as you can see, that's the solo. A lot going on. I'm going to play through it real slow, and then I'm going to bring it up to speed. Okay, so we'll play it twice, and you can kind of hear what the fab solo is all about. So here's the speed. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E, 2 and 3E and 4E and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E, 2 and 3E and 4E and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and 2 and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2 and 3E and 4 and 1E, 2 and 3E and 4E and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E, 2 and 3E and 4E and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1E, 2 and 3E and 4E and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2E, 3E and 4 and 1 and 2E, 3E and 4, 1E, 2 and 3E and 4E and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1E and 2 and 3E and 4, 1E, 2 and 3E and 4E and 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, time to bring it up to speed now. Again, I did that as slow as I can. If I did it too slow, it would just really drag. And so, again, if you need to, practice it slowly until you feel like you've got the right comfortable tempo and speed that you're comfortable with. And then when you feel like you got it, then you can start to speed it up, okay? Which I'll do right now, and I'll keep it about that tempo the way Ringo did in the record. So, 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, as you can see, really fun to do. People really seem to, if you see a band and you're doing a drum solo, people really respect the drummer when he plays the drum solo. Again, it's not the most important thing, but it's once in a while, it's nice for the drummer to kind of take a bow and, for all his hard work he did for the drum solo. Because again, it's a physical thing. It's very hard to do this. It's hard to keep that up. It takes a lot of energy, and you kind of burn a lot of energy. And it's so important that you kind of learn how to do that as well instead of just playing drum patterns and stuff. It's always nice to add that little bit of icing on the cake, so to speak. All right, the next section we're going to be talking about is accentuated. Now, what accentuated means is that we call these things called accents. Accents are basically a note that is played a little louder or a little heavier than one that doesn't have this little accent. Now, what an accent looks like on the page is it looks kind of like a greater than sign. You remember in mathematics class in grade school when you had, greater than, less than, equal to, that kind of thing? The greater than sign kind of looks like this, okay? And whenever you see that above a certain note, that means to hit that note a little louder. I'm going to demonstrate that right now. But they give you 4 measures because we're dealing with 16th notes. And remember, a couple of shows ago when we were talking about 16ths for the first time, every 16th note has 4 counts. So it's 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, okay? So when we count these, there's the number, then the second count is the E, then the and then the And what they're going to do on this example is they're going to play the accents on the 1 or the E, the and or the okay? So I'm going to play 4 measures, but each one's going to have a different accent in a different spot. So here's what they sound like. Listen to this. I'll play it slow, and then I'll kind of play it a little bit faster. So the first measure sounds like this. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Again, notice that when I get an accent, I just hit that stick a little higher up. I bring it up higher, and then I come down, and I can hit that drum a little bit harder. The rest of my left hand is kind of staying down lower. So it's like 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay? So that's the numbers. Now, the next one is on the E's. So now we're going to hit the second note, which means that the left stick will hit all the E's. Here we go real slow. I'm going to leave the bass drum out. I think it's better if you just hear the snare drum. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Notice as I play, the E, when I hit that E, it comes up a little higher, but then when I'm doing all the other notes, the left stick comes down lower like where the right stick is. Let's play the E's again. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay? Next one, the ands. Now I'm going to hit back with the right again because I'm going to start the stick out with the right stick. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay? And then the last one is the Us. We're going to go back to the left again. So it's 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay, now when we add the bass drums in, the bass drums will be on the first of each 4 16th notes. So it's going to be on the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. And then the accents will be in their designated spot, like the 1, the E, and the and the I'll slow it down. Let's do it real slow. Here we go. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and then 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. Okay, now I'm going to speed it up, and we're going to hear a little bit what it sounds like, and we'll get that going. And then we're going to be talking about a different type of drum solo, and that's coming up in just a little bit. So let's take a listen a little faster with the accentuated. This is number 77 on page 37 of the Drums 1 book, okay? Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. Okay, pretty fancy. All right, we're going to actually listen to another little drum solo. This is from a different band. This is from a band called the Safaris. And they had a song called Wipeout. And this number 78 accent on solos in the book is actually this solo. Now, they can't say that it's Wipeout, but you'll hear it. I'm going to play the example. And again, just like the Ringo solo, you're going to hear this one and be able to tell the difference and what's actually this, a little bit different about it. But let's take a listen to the example. All right, you heard the song. That's Wipeout. That came out in the early 60s, and a really great one. When I first heard it, I was totally hooked by it because I love the drums, and just the way he played the solo was really cool. He plays it on different parts, but the whole thing is that drum solo is worked around with the accents, and that's what we're talking about today, accentuated or accents on solo. So this is basically Wipeout. We're going to break it down. I'm going to go just like I did with the Ringo one. We're going to break this down, and then we'll kind of bring it up to speed, and you can hear what it sounds like. It sounds very similar to Wipeout, okay? So we're going to start off with the floor tom, and the accents this time will be on the downbeat, which is the numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But on the second measure, it's going to be on the 1, the and then back on the and of 3, and then also 4. So you can see if you have the book is going to have the 4 accents on 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the first one. On the second one, it's going to be on 1, the and of 2, the and of 3, and 4. So let's kind of break this down real slow. I'm going to put the bass drum along with it on all 4, and I'll, again, play this really slow. Here we go. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and again, I'll play it a little bit faster. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and a little bit faster. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and okay. The next line, it does a repeat, 2-measure line, 2-measure repeat on the second line. And then it goes to the same rhythm we just did on the floor tom, except now we're moving it to the middle tom. So it's going to go 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and let me slow that down a little bit more. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and okay, as you can see, those accents, I'm always raising my stick a little higher than the rest. When I need to bring that accent in, I always just raise that right stick up. Sometimes it could be the left one. This one right now is just usually using the right. Now we're going to go on to the third line, and we're going to go back to the floor tom with the bass drums. Again, here's what that sounds like. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and again a little faster. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and all right, let's go down to 1, 2, 3, fourth line. And the fourth line is actually going to the high tom this time, but they're going to shorten the rhythm down. It's going to be short, a little shorter. Here's what it sounds like. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and then it goes to the middle tom. Same thing, same short rhythm. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and then we're in the home stretch. The last line, we go back to the floor tom, and then it goes 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 and crash. All right, I'm going to play this all the way through so you can kind of get an idea how the solo goes. And I'll keep it slow, and then I'll speed it up, and you can kind of hear what it sounds like faster. All right, starting from the top. Number 76, accent on solo. 1, 2, 3, go. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E. Again. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. All right, as you can see, that last measure, we went floor tom and bass, and then we played 3 snares, and then don't forget we had a rest there. That's called a quarter rest. It gets 1 beat of rest, and then we do the crash. That's why that little space was there. All right, let's put this all together, and it will speed it up. Here's what it sounds like. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, so there you have it. 2 different solos, 2 different bands, 2 different drummers. Very important drum solos are, but again, they're not everything that you need to do when you're playing with a band. Drum solos are kind of like an extra bonus. Once in a while, you will get to play one probably down the road. But again, the most important thing about being a drummer is keeping good time and relaxing and taking care of the rest of the band with your beats and your fills. So I guess we're going to end right here today. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Joe's Drum Shop. And I'd like to thank everybody for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to drop a line at joedrums1@comcast.net. Feel free anytime if you have any questions or concerns. I'd love to hear from you. And until then, you guys take care, keep rocking, and I'll see you on the next show. Have a good one.